Football Sunday doubleheader. First in Green Bay, the Packers face the Lions.
Got it! Touchdown!
Then at MetLife Stadium, the Giants host the undefeated Patriots. Coverage begins Sunday at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.
BYOG, bring your own guts.
This is the best
Do you hear me?
of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
In an absolutely gorgeous November day, we are in Starkville, Mississippi. And the tailgating has started early, as you can imagine. The biggest weekend of the year is, well, maybe. There's still another one to go. I don't want to jump the gun. But certainly, as the man in the hotel told me, we get pretty fired up when Bama comes across the state line. Welcome to our program. Looking forward to a great afternoon. And when you start off with the head coach, Dan Mullen, it's always even more special. Coach, oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, your ears are going to be ringing, not just today, but after tomorrow morning's show. You'll be about Monday before you can hear again.
Since you let him out of something that we taped something with Dak Prescott with a I was the cowbeller, so I have finally learned how to.
You have a deep appreciation.
I do
for the art of the cowbell now.
Well, your president awarded me the official cowbell last year with our crew, so I have it prominently displayed.
That sounds good. That sounds good right there. You need it all next week. I'll tell you what, we get a win here tomorrow. I need it on set all next week up in front of you on the show.
We have one
all
right below this house. We yank it out every once in a while, but it is so good to be here. And Coach, last year we were here, and it was back-to-back mega weekends with the A&M, and then obviously Auburn, and it just has that feel today that with Alabama coming in town tomorrow.
It is a big game, and I think one of the things I'm really proud of is I think we've made it a big game. I think everybody coming into this expected Alabama to be about where they are right now at this point of the season. And I know a lot of people didn't expect us to have a great year. I don't know that those people are here behind us right now.
No one remembers that.
But I think how our teams played to put this in a position. This is a game. Last year our Alabama game was a big game. Oh, yeah. A lot of implications, not just in the SEC but nationally. And it's great that we're almost in that position again this year. We're right there, and again another huge game. This is the type of program we want to have.
You and many, and no one here liked the predictions. I mean, maybe you actually did when everyone forgot what happened last year and immediately put State back at number 7. Of course, those predictions, I don't know why anyone gets upset considering how rarely they are correct.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing, because if you had asked me, I don't know where I'd predict us, because even in that part of the year, you don't even know what type of team you're going to have. You don't know how injuries are going to play a role. You don't know how guys are going to continue to develop. I don't even know until sometimes week 3 or 4 of this season, you find the personality of your own team that you're going to have for this year, of what type of team you're going to have, what's going to go well, how they're going to sync together with this year's team. And so I do think it's hard to predict, but heck, I don't know. I think we've just come accustomed to that here now.
You started off. I wouldn't say it was a rough beginning, but certainly the early loss and then the second loss, and people were forgetting about State again for the second time, and now here comes Mississippi State playing really good football.
Well, it was, and we did a younger team. We played LSU here early in the season, lost, missed a field goal in the last play of the game to lose that game by was 21-19, I think. We missed a 2-point conversion earlier. A couple opportunities for us to win that game. Then you go down to Texas A&M. We have a younger group, a lot of younger guys, new guys playing for us. Lose that game, and we got together in the locker room afterwards and said, okay, we can go in 2 directions right now as a young football team. But we need to get better, and we had a home stretch coming up of 3 straight games, 2 of them non-conference games, where if we continually get better, we improve from this day forward, we're going to have a pretty good football season. But not unless we show up and practice every day to continually improve. And you know what happened? And our older guys understood that. Our older guys, there wasn't a panic with the older guys. Even though you're 3-2, hey, they knew there's a lot of football to be played. It's a long season. And they help those younger guys. They help those young guys understand that show up every day and get better. Just show up every day and get better. All of a sudden, we go out, we beat Troy, we beat a very good Louisiana Tech team, we beat a Kentucky team that was playing pretty well at the time. And the guys start looking and watching the film like, wow, we're a lot better than we were before. go on against a tough Missouri team. I thought we played well last Thursday night up there. And now, the same thing. Tomorrow we're going to have to play better than we've played in those previous games, continue to improve. But if we do that, we're going to have a chance to compete and a chance to win.
Let me ask you about Alabama, because you can't go anywhere in this part of the world without dealing with Alabama. You're very close to them in proximity. Last year it was an epic game in Tuscaloosa when you came in there number one in the country. Clearly you've now seen the film of LSU, the film that everyone in this country is talking about, and what they did to Leonard Fournette. Your impressions of this team?
They're an excellent football team. One thing you look, everybody knows they have a great deal of talent. I mean, there's nowhere I think they've had 5 straight number one recruiting classes. They basically sign the best player at every position in the country every year. I mean, they have the talent. But I do think, there's more than just having the talent. They do a great job. Nick and the whole staff, they do a great job. They put those guys, these talented players, they get them to play really hard and believe in their system. They have played with excellent technique, and not just rely on their pure natural ability that they recruit these guys with. And they also put them in position to go be successful. One of the things I think that is different, and you see them this year, you watch them play and everyone wonders, why when they go out on defense, the 19 guys run out there on the field and then a lot of them run off with the substitute personnel groupings. I think, you've seen them.
Congratulations.
There we go. I hope that's good luck.
It is good luck.
You see them in the past a lot. You all know they're big and physical on the defensive line. I think they've added pass rushers this year. And so I think that's a new challenge that their defense does bring to the table this year. And they sub them out. They play a lot of different players, a lot of different personnel groupings, but they do a good job of putting their guys in a position to be successal.
Chatting with Dan Mullen, and we've talked so many times about the support you've gotten and what you've brought to this school, but it is pretty remarkable to look around here.
They've all bought in.
Your name has been mentioned at times, but you seem very committed to Mississippi State.
Well, you know what? I was a young coach. I was 36 years old. An offensive coordinator at Mississippi State gave me an opportunity and believed in me. I show up. We had a young athletic director. We kind of put together. We had a vision. A president, a first-year president, got hired the same time I did. And you know what? Everybody, we said, this is the plan, and everybody believed in me. And there's an awful lot to that. They believed not just in me as a football coach, but they believed in what our vision of how we can make Mississippi State great. And everybody bought in. Everybody believed in that. And you know what? They've been loyal to me the whole time, and that's why I've always been loyal right back to all of them.
I bring that up because I'm on the plane today coming over here, and I'm reading Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
And it does a list of some of the best jobs in America. I brought you an extra copy, by the way. And under Southern Cal, it lists several coaches and said the front runner is Dan Mullen.
Really?
And it may be news to you.
Boo.
But,
Boo.
I mean, there's no specific way to answer questions like that other than that's great. But it is interesting how many jobs your name is now associated with, including Southern Cal.
Well, you know what? I mean, it is. I mean, even when your name gets mentioned, I always view it this way. A lot of times you look in coaching, and especially in this conference, there's a lot of schools, either your name's mentioned where we need to get rid of our coach, okay? Or your name's mentioned that there's something better out there for you to go do. And I'll take the second of that because I don't want to be on that list of getting rid of all the time. I always say that. But, that stuff happens. It's always crazy. And you know what? I think it's a great tribute to what we've been able to accomplish here at Mississippi State. What all these people have bought into, I think people around the country look at other schools and they say, we like the excitement that was created at Mississippi State. And we'd like to learn from that. And I do see a lot of schools come in and try to copy a lot of the things, not just maybe football schematically, but, our marketing department, all the different things we've used to make this school exciting. And I think that's why your name gets thrown out there. And, I'm sure as big AD jobs come open, Scott Strickland's name is going to be mentioned because of what he's been able to build within the athletic department here.
Oh, very
I'll
clever.
deflect it back
I
to him.
love that.
I know, he's coming here later. You can get on him.
Is there any way, and I bring it up because I read it. It wasn't like I have a source. I don't know anyone at Southern Cal. But when that type of thing comes up, is there a standard way to answer it? Is there any way to answer things like that?
You can give the regular coach talk, which is, hey, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that.
I don't know.
There is not. Mine is no one's ever called me. I haven't talked to anybody. Believe it or not, the amazing one is people like, boy, it was you were so loyal last year. No one called me last year either. We were a great team. No one called me, and I'm fine with that because I'm very, very happy here. I have 2 small kids at home. Starkville is a great place to raise a family. We do get bad traffic now. I get caught in a traffic light every once in a while. When you go recruiting sometimes to these cities, I'm like, oh my goodness. You're like sitting here. I can't believe we're not going anywhere. You just get used to the small town living, and people always think the grass is greener somewhere else. Sure. I'm not that person. I really enjoy being here. I love being here. And these fans believe in me, and I love it. And I know that sounds like a standard answer, but it's kind of how I think it is. Kind of how it is in coaching. I think a lot of things in coaching, you try not to worry about what's not real. What ifs. Because you just got to get caught up in. There was it's like with games. What if we win this? What if we win that? What's going to happen if we beat Alabama here tomorrow? I can't be worrying about that. I got enough to worry about to try to make that happen first. Right. We'll worry about that later on down the road. And I think a lot of the coaching searches, when that stuff happens, the coaches, it's all the same. They treat it the same way.
Well, at least you didn't give the usual line like, that's the first I've heard of it. I have no earthly idea. I have a job. You gave a much better answer than the standard.
Because I think it is right. And I also think, and this is a big deal, I think, with coaching searches, I think this. Generally, any time my name's ever been noticed for a job, I've gotten calls before. I won't say who it is. Okay. I have gotten calls since I've been here. But any time my name was mentioned as being a candidate, I've never gotten one of those calls. So, it's usually something
last year, everyone was sure you were leaving.
Yeah, and I never got a call. And, there were other years where it's like, boy, they weren't very good. And I actually did. I've gotten calls before, but you don't usually get ones when your name's out there. If they float, I think of sometimes, and maybe, I don't know how it works, there's either schools or search committees, hey, let's float a name here so that we can go and get our search done over here when all the people are paying attention to somebody else. And
kind of like football.
Yeah, how
misdirection.
Do you misdirection in everything that you're doing.
Never happened before. Well, anyway, I didn't mean to be the bearer of bad news here that your coach is going to Southern Cal.
I'm happy here at Mississippi State.
There are a lot of traffic lights in L.A., I will tell you that. You've been there. It's not easy to get around.
I have been there before, and, it's amazing because you get there, you type in a GPS, like you go recruiting, like, oh, okay, this school's only 5.1 miles away. Well, to someone in Starkville, Mississippi, 5.1 miles means they'll be there in about 7 minutes. There's a lot of places, and LA's one of them in the world, where that means about 40 minutes.
Doesn't sound like he's going to Southern Cal, does it? Anyway, Coach, where you are going is to a game tomorrow, and we won't keep you, but it's always fun. You're one of our favorites.
Well, thanks
for gracious with
your
time, and best wishes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It'll be a lot of fun here tomorrow. It should be a great game, and an unbelievable environment. These, people, this. These environments are what make the SEC so special. And I don't think people understand it's not like this everywhere else in the country.
No, it is not.
It is just different down here in the SEC, and that's why people want to coach here, and we love it here. So, thank you.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Hey, football fans, this is Robert Flores. Coming up on the latest Football Today podcast, we'll take a look back at the Bills' win over the Jets, why it further clouds the AFC wildcard picture. Plus, we're picking all the games for Sunday and Monday. Download at ESPN.com/PodCenter.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
You're not worth a flail.
We gave you the breaking news of this afternoon. It has been an amazing week in Columbia, and it has unfortunately become more dramatic. Gary Pinkel moments ago announced that he will resign his position as head football coach at the conclusion of this year. Pinkel announced that he has been undergoing treatment for a non-cancerous lymphoma, and we are obviously passing this news along as we receive it. Pinkel's comment is, and I quote, "I want to make it very clear that I'm not doing poorly and that this is a manageable disease, but it's one that will never go away. So many people have bigger struggles with other forms of cancer and other serious diseases, and I feel blessed that I've got something I can fight and still enjoy a quality of life." So he was just diagnosed with lymphoma, a non-threatening lymphoma, with a lymphoma in May, and has been treating it. He informed his staff this evening, and we'll address questions after the game in Kansas City. So again, Gary Pinkel stepping down at the end of the season. We're joined now by Brent Musburger, who will be calling the game tomorrow night in Kansas City. Brent, thanks for the time, and just an utterly unforgettable week in Columbia, and now this from Coach Pinkel. Your thoughts, and what can you tell us, if anything?
Well, like everybody else, I was stunned by the news, which broke here just moments ago. And as I talked to you, Paul, the BYU football team has filed onto the field here. This is the first time that perhaps 98% of them have ever been in Arrowhead Stadium. And I saw some of them looking down at their telephones on the field, so I'm sure that the news is being passed around the BYU staff. Gary Pinkel is just a wonderful, wonderful football coach, and has done through the years a tremendous job at Missouri. When you go back, Paul, and you look at where they were athletically when he took that job, especially with the football team, and then he built them up to the position that when they joined the SEC, they have won 2 Eastern Division championships, which is absolutely, in my mind, remarkable. This week is something that Coach didn't deserve. And as we all know, when news started to leak out on Sunday, there were thoughts that this game might not even be played. But, of course, there were developments in Columbia, and the football team went back to work after missing at least one day that I know of. I'll talk to Coach Pinkel here a little bit later and find out how the focus is of this football team. But did this drive Pinkel to make the announcement now? Well, you are certainly left to speculate that, because these are very troubling times over at Missouri, and I don't think any coach has had to deal with something that came across Gary Pinkel's desk Saturday evening or early Sunday morning. And then when we all learned that he's been battling lymphoma, and, of course, the added pressure that was brought on by this set of developments down in Columbia over the weekend certainly could not have helped him. And I think all of us wish him nothing but the best. We hope that he's able to maintain his good health. When I've been around him several times this fall, Paul, he has looked to be in very good physical condition. He's been very alert, but something like this obviously can wear you down, and then there were the circumstances brought about by the possible boycott of this particular football game. So as it comes across, there are as many questions right now as there are answers, and it is something that he probably could have sat on until the end of the season. I don't think anybody was questioning Gary about whether or not he was going to continue as head football coach. I'm sure he could have continued as long as he wanted to. So just like you and everybody else in the SEC Nation, we are taken aback by this late development here today. And of course, you are wondered, and I have wondered, what's the reaction of the team going to be, first of all, to the set of circumstances that developed over the weekend in Columbia, and then the recent news that their head coach is stepping down at the end of the season. You wonder how this football team, which was struggling already over the past month, having a terrible time scoring touchdowns, how they're going to be able to focus on a BYU team that you don't want to go to sleep on. They're 7-2. They're well coached. They lost their quarterback in the opening game of the season. Enter the freshman. All he did was stage a miracle ending to that first game, and they have gone from there. They come in 7-2, and they are certainly a force to be reckoned with, Paul.
No, you're right. And let me just make sure I correct what I said a moment ago about the illness, Brent. He was diagnosed in May of 2015 with lymphoma,
Right.
which is a type of a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer of the blood. I just want to make sure I correctly pass that along. You are so right about many things, and I think health is the most important thing to anyone, as anyone who advances in any age knows. But what you said a moment ago, Brent, really struck me, because I felt Coach Pinkel handled the situation as well as he possibly could. He understood the severity of it. If he didn't react, he stood up there. He stood behind his players, even though many have taken issue. But I thought it was a great moment for him. It was one of his finer moments, because he stood up for the team. And I'm like you, terribly saddened to hear this news, because he is such a compelling figure and such a likable figure as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And, the picture he sent out of the players, I think he did what he had to do to keep that football team together. Right. And I asked him specifically over the telephone, because there were some anonymous quotes on ESPN.com from some of the players who said they did not agree with the possible boycott. Right. I said, how are you able to keep this team together now? He said, we are all together. He said, we had everybody raise their hands in a meeting. He said, we are all together. And that had to be the first job of Gary Pinkel in this situation. He had no control over what was happening outside of his football team, but he had to keep them together. And I certainly agree with you. Let's sort out whether or not we agree with what was happening with the outside pressure. Let's forget about that for a minute, and let's just focus on Gary Pinkel, what he had to do, and that is keep that Missouri football team together and get them back to work as quickly as he could. And I think he did a very, very commendable job in that. I agree with you.
No, Brett and Brendan, listen. We're both trained as journalists, and journalists don't take people's word for it, and many have looked into it. But we've all been there. You have to act in the moment. And if he had not acted in defense of his football team, there's really no telling where this would have gone. None of this is, has anything to do with the story we're passing along today, but it is worth noting. Just now, and I realize this is a breaking story. We just found out about it moments ago, but the impact on this game, I don't think, is really the most important thing. The impact on the program, Brent, is far bigger. But like you said, what is next? I mean, you've spoken to him. Has he met, or do we know if he's met with his team yet?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, he's not had a full team meeting. Now, perhaps he has within the last 20 minutes. He's due to come in here.
Right.
He was scheduled to have an interview with Maria Taylor, and obviously Maria's going to have to ask him about this particular latest development. As to why it came out today, that's something that I want to ask the coach.
That's a good question.
On top of everything else that has come down about his football team, why choose today to say, yes, I'm stepping away at the end of the season? I have no inkling of an answer to that.
No, and again, we're just talking because it's hard to really think about too much else now. Sometimes, as you know, and we all know, when coaches make up their mind, there is almost no way to contain it, and maybe he just felt the best thing to do was get it out before someone else got it out. Maybe someone else had already inquired. I have no earthly idea, but it certainly has just taken this week of unpredictable events to another level. And I know tomorrow night, as you do this game, the game is the game that almost wasn't. Not to make light of a college football game that many people will be watching, but it almost seems trivial now, Brent.
Yeah, exactly, because we had the first instance coming forward, and the president of the university is forced out, and now we have the head football coach stepping down at the end of this season. So, I mean, the developments this week regarding Missouri are unprecedented when you think about it, Paul, with what they're going through internally and what we're paying attention to on the outside. I completely agree with you. However, I do want to point out that in fairness to BYU, and we have to say that this football game is still important. They've got some things on the table, as you know. They would like to someday join a conference. The Big 12 could add a couple of teams. I'm sure that BYU would jump at the chance to join that particular conference. I've always thought that only Notre Dame could stay independent, and look what happened with them over the last year or so. They basically have done everything but say we're a football playing member of the ACC. All the rest of their teams have gone in there. So this game has importance as far as BYU is concerned. And from the Missouri standpoint, Paul, they still need 2 wins to become bowl eligible. All right? Now, you wonder, they're an underdog in this game, and that number has been going up as the developments take place. And now there are probably some that say, will this team now rally and go out and win one for their retiring head football coach? Those are things we don't know. But I think it will be a disservice to BYU and all their millions of followers if we say that this game has completely lost its luster. I don't agree with that.
No, and that's very fair, Brent. And tomorrow night, people will be watching a football game, all this other stuff. And by the way, it's just been an amazing week. The president of Missouri resigning, the chancellor resigning, now the head football coach, and you have Mack Rhodes, a first-year athletic director. He just took over. It's an extraordinary situation.
Exactly, Paul.
Brent, thank you very, very much. We can't thank you enough for helping us through this breaking news.
All right, Paul. Have a great weekend over in Starkville. Should be a good one, lad.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Put a little cherry on the top.
Hey there, everybody. We're Mike and Mike.
It's that time of year again, Greeny.
You're absolutely right, Golick. The college football playoff is here.
And we're giving you the chance to be in with us at the national championship game.
Here's what you do. Listen live every weekday for your chance to win the Mike and Mike at the college football playoff sweepstakes presented by AutoZone.
Listen live for that winning word, then just enter for your chance to win.
We're picking a winner every week. Who's in?
Visit ESPNradio.com/MikeCFP for complete contest rules. You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
You're not worth a flip.
Let's check in with Truman, who we had the opportunity to meet last week in Columbia. Truman, you're on the Missouri campus right now. What is the reaction?
Well, Paul, I guess I can only speak for myself. But I guess you can say this whole week I've been able to stay strong until now. It's really, excuse me. It's something else when a coach can make a fan feel a part of the family. Sorry for my voice. I'm kind of sick and I'm a little emotional.
I understand. I completely understand, Truman. Well, listen, thank you so much for calling. We'll talk soon, I hope, and be well, my friend. Ken is up next in Chattanooga. Ken, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paul. It's a pleasure talking with you. I want to say I'm a Christian, and I pray for anyone that has illness, and I just pray that God's will be done in his healing of Coach Pinkel. As far as the events that happened this past week, I just want to say people have a right to protest. There's ways of going about it, and as far as the football players saying they weren't going to play a game and basically blackmailing the president to resign, I would say that if they're not going to practice and not going to play, that they could have been told that if you're not performing your duties as a football player.
Well, let me say this again. Listen, I respect what you said, and I'm not here to debate. I mean, I think everyone has their opinions on that. And I said this the other day. I'll say it again. I thought Coach Pinkel handled the moment with grace. He did what he had to do, and knowing now what we what we didn't know then, I think was even more remarkable. Thank you so much. Larry is up next in Missouri. Larry, good afternoon.
Hey, Mr. Finebaum, how you get along today?
Okay.
Hey, great. Hey, you know what? It's a sad day indeed down here. And I'm not a Blue fan, but I am a Gary Pinkel fan. But, I'm going to color a little bit differently here. I'm not a yes man if Dave Matter and all these honks get on here. I mean, there's not anybody left in this state with an ounce of courage to tell the truth as to what's happened down here. I mean, Gary Pinkel saw the handwriting on the wall. Now, I know he's sick, but Gary Pinkel been coaching within a year. But they ruined and ran off 5-6 good people down here, and he just one more to the list. I mean, on a daily basis, they barrage him with his privilege, his salary. And I honestly believe Gary Pinkel just said, the hell with it. He's tired of it. And he didn't need these people. And the last thing I'll say, Mizzou sucked in the Big 12, and they're getting ready to suck again, and they deserve every damn bit of it. Thanks, Paul. Brother, sir.
Daryl is up next in Georgia. Daryl, thank you. Good afternoon.
I would say that the loss of Gary Pinkel is kind of hurts the SEC a little bit. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, I think Gary Pinkel was an extraordinary coach and human being, and I think he brought a lot of style and class and substance to this league. Yes.
I just hope he's not pulling an Urban Meyer. I mean, I hope.
Daryl, let me interrupt you for a second. If you know anything about this disease, he's not pulling an Urban Meyer. And
okay. Well, just to say he's going to coach, and all of a sudden, what's going on up there and say he's not going to coach?
I can promise you, no one comes out and says they've been diagnosed with a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer of the blood, and is going to do anything other than pray and seek treatment.
Well, I didn't mean that. That didn't. Okay, I didn't. It might have come across the wrong way. I didn't mean that he didn't have that symptom. I just meant that I didn't know if that was exactly the reason why, and if what's going on up there, if that had any influence over him.
Well, I mean that's a fair question, and I don't know the answer to that. Dave Matter said a few weeks ago that they intended to announce it later in the week. I mean, there's no way of knowing. The two connect. The timing of it is interesting, but I just don't think you would have put it out now unless you were just ready to move on. And maybe he is fed up. Maybe that expedited the announcement. I don't think it expedited his decision, though.
Right. I heard Dan Mullen earlier talking about, he said a great program. I wouldn't call Mississippi State great. More like good, but great. I mean, they're far from great, in my opinion. Hey, well, what's going to happen tomorrow, Paul? Alabama, Mississippi State. What do you think is going to happen?
I probably. I'm not sure yet. I'll wait till tomorrow. I like to soak up the atmosphere here before making a final decision. But I think Alabama right now is playing better than anyone in the country.
Let me ask you this, okay? We saw that Mark Reed was on the hot seat and all that. What is kind of like? I don't understand. How is Gus Malzahn not on the hot seat? I mean, if they lose tomorrow to Georgia, you got to think Alabama's going to beat them. They will end up 6-6 for the season. I mean, and a team that was ranked in the top 5 picked to win the West and end up 6-6. I do not understand how Gus Malzahn is not.
Well, I think if he hadn't beaten Kentucky or
Kentucky.
Well,
Kentucky, Paul?
I'm just saying, had he lost to Kentucky and hadn't beaten A&M, I think he would be in more trouble. The fact that he was able to win 2 games, most people have moved on, and I think they're hopeful about a win tomorrow. A loss tomorrow would hurt, though, I'll tell you that.
Well, I mean, 8 out of the last 10 and counting. I mean, maybe Auburn's lowered their standards. I'll tell you what, I'm going to call the upset. I would pick Mississippi State, but if I did that's the only way Florida can win the SEC championship is by Mississippi State beating Alabama. So I'm going to stick and say Roll Tide. See you, Paul.
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate the call. Again, what can you say?
Thank you for listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast. The Paul Finebaum Show airs weekdays on the SEC Network, beginning at 3 Eastern. It's a football Sunday doubleheader. First in Green Bay, the Packers face the Lions.
Got it! Touchdown!
Then at MetLife Stadium, the Giants host the undefeated Patriots. Coverage begins Sunday at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.